Daniela, can you make me co-host again?
Good evening, everyone. Buenas tardes. Thank you so much for joining this evening. We are pretty much ready to get started. I recognize that there's still, we're still waiting for some other CSC members. So of course, as always, as they trickle in, we'll be able to welcome them. And as usual, we have a few housekeeping slides. And so we'll just kind of get started and definitely pay attention to anyone that needs support to make sure that they're able to contribute to this meeting. But welcome again, good evening. My name is Daniela Flores. I am one of the facilitators from Harder & Company Community Research. And I'm also joined by my team, Liz Lev, who will be supporting keeping track of the action items and note-taking and actually a lot of other logistical support. And then we also have Dr. Gemma Cardona from Harder & Company supporting this process. And so I see that the Air District team members are here. I see Bianca's here from the community co-leads, and Gustavo's probably here. Let me just double check. Yeah, I see Gus here. So I think we're ready to go. And I see some nods. So I'm gonna go ahead and move forward here. You should all be able to see my screen now. I'm gonna go over some of those usual housekeeping slides that I usually go through. As you'll notice, you'll start to see the different team members from Harder & Company rotate. So sometimes Liz will facilitate, sometimes I will facilitate. And then of course, just making a note that even though it said Liz would facilitate today, I'll be taking today on. And then Jessica, I did see you unmuted, so I did want to create space in case you had, or that was before, never mind. We're good to go. I'm gonna proceed and again, just really welcoming you all at this moment. And so I'm gonna go ahead and turn to my screen. The document that I'm sharing, it should look very familiar, but basically just it's extra important today that we all rename one on ourselves if we're able to. And if not, I know the Air District and our team are supporting with that as well. We'll be doing some small breakout rooms. And so it's where that renaming basically helps us assign those members that are from the CSC to make sure that you're in a small group. So we'll just ask for folks to put a CSC label in front of their name. And then if you're from a different agency, if you can add that as well. For the Air District team, I know usually you already do this, but just sharing that it'll be extra important to make sure for those folks that prefer to be in a Spanish speaking group, that's also included in the name so that we can make sure to capture that in the breakout room as well. I'll leave this one in Spanish for a second, and then we'll go into our interpretation slide. All right, so as usual, we want to make sure that everyone that wants to participate is able to. So I'm putting this slide here so that to remind folks to make sure that select the language that they would like to participate in the meeting in. It's simultaneous, so I would just ask folks to go into the meeting controls to select the language. There's a kind of an arrow here. And you'll be able to make your way to either English or Spanish. And if you're calling in from the phone app, of course, it's a little bit different where you want to look on the bottom left of the slide. It shows you some dots that indicate the menu. And so you'll want to select language interpretation after that. And then with that, I'd love to invite the Linguistica team if they would like to support to share the same instructions in Spanish. Otherwise, I can do it too. Let me see. Catherine, are you on the line on this one? I can totally do it. Or actually, she's an interpretation. Usually they use like a separate device.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Absolutely. Yeah, Jessica, was that just to go ahead and give the instructions?
Daniela, I think, you're in the main channel. I think folks are in the English and Spanish are already, I believe I heard them say they already gave the instructions.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, yeah, I usually like to, I know that I don't follow my own instructions. I like to hear both, but that's not how it works here. So, okay, so then if the instructions have been already stated, I guess how would people, if they didn't select a language, how would people know?
So it might have to be you or someone in the main channel speaking. Otherwise, they're already in the regular.
Okay, so I'll just say it now. So muy buenas tardes. Si usted todavía no ha seleccionado el audio en español, si gustaría participar en la reunión en español, como siempre, pero si usted es nuevo en nuestras reuniones, está la opción para escuchar la reunión en español. Así que puede ir a los controles de Zoom, ya sea por teléfono o por su computadora, y puede seleccionar el icono del globo donde dice interpretación o interpretation y seleccione el lenguaje. Ahí va a poder seleccionar Spanish, o si su teléfono está programado en español, va a decir español. Si usted está llamando de un dispositivo móvil, va a poder seleccionar, se ve como este icono con los donde dice, no sé si diría more o en español diría algo diferente, pero los puntitos, y ahí va a seleccionar la interpretación del lenguaje. Si tiene alguna duda, por favor, mándenos un mensaje y con mucho gusto le asistimos. Okay, we can continue. So of course, we are continuing to meet virtually. We wish we were in person with you all, but we do have these virtual meeting kind of supports to make sure that we can continue to engage. So I'll just share some of those reminders. We just ask that everyone stay muted, just like you are now. If you're calling in, if you're able to press, if you're calling in from a cell phone on the cell phone line, you're able to press *6 if you would like to mute or unmute throughout the meeting. If you would like to raise your hand, you would simply select the Zoom hand in the Zoom menu bar. And if you're calling in, you would select *6 to unmute, *9 to raise your hand. So *6 to unmute, *9 to raise your hand. For residents that are part of the stipend program, we just ask that you stay in this meeting for at least 75% of the meeting. So for this meeting, it's a 2-hour meeting. That means 90 minutes. Let me go to this next slide. Of course, we do have some of those group agreements that folks have worked through in previous months. And so I'll just kind of share them out here as well. You all have agreed to help achieve the meeting goals, focusing on solutions, stepping in and out, making sure that we create space for everyone to participate and contribute to the conversation, a conversation that honors respect. And of course, we have a 2-hour commitment to each other during this space. And if you, there's sometimes the facilitator might identify when there's discussion that definitely needs to continue on beyond the time that we have. We might just remind folks it might be a topic of if to be discussing in the future. And so, we kind of ask that you kind of be mindful of that time, and that we kind of focus on really looking at the problems that we're discussing rather than any individuals here. And then, of course, seeking consensus and common ground. Today's going to be an important meeting where we want to get consensus. We want to hear your consensus, your priorities, and you'll learn more about what this meeting is all about. Hopefully, though, with the agenda, you were able to get a preview. And so pretty much here, what you see on my slide is a summary of what we'll do today. So at the last meeting, the California Air Resources Board hosted a workshop, and you were able to participate and contribute your feedback on the SERP development and process. So today, the Air District and co-leads have prepared a meeting where you will be able to begin to engage in conversations about prioritization, prioritizing some of the topics that you want to bring in future meetings. And you'll hear more about that in the next few minutes. But in a nutshell, we are going to kick it off to the co-leads and Air District to share some opening remarks. We're going to make sure that you have an opportunity to get an update on the action item tracker and where those actions are, what progress has been made, that prioritization exercise where you will be in small groups, as I mentioned, will be at 5:20. At 6:30, we'll transition to some just standing items, standing updates that you'll begin to see moving forward. And we'll start that today. And then, of course, we'll just try to wrap us up around 6:50 and create some space for the public comments. Okay, wonderful. So that is it from me. I would love to welcome the Air District for opening remarks.
I'll be brief. We have a lot to get to tonight. I just want to welcome you all. Thank those of you who we met with last night. We'll have a little bit of update for those that weren't able to join us from one of our co-leads later in the meeting, but it's so good to see so many familiar faces. And as Daniela said, this is a meeting where we're going to take some action and make some steps. I know the past few meetings have been more just updates and certainly getting feedback from you, but tonight is really about prioritizing and starting implementation. So we're really grateful for all of you, and I'm happy to share this space with Gus and Bianca and see if they have any opening remarks for us as well.
Would Gus or Bianca like to share any opening remarks?
Yes, how's it going? I'll be brief. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Yeah, last night we met with a kind of small conglomerate of folks from the South Kern region and regulatory agencies to come together and talk about pesticides and how important this is. And so a subcommittee was formed. Right, not being exclusatory, everyone is invited, but this is a space where we could kind of get more down into the grains, if you will, down into the weeds of pesticide and the pesticide measures here in South Kern. And so we had folks from the Department of Pesticide Regulation, the Ag Commissioner was present, the state and the district, along with some residents. And this is a space where we could share. We can continue to share when we talk about strategies moving forward in this discussion of pesticides and the pesticides measures inside the SERP. So thank you for putting that together, and I hope that we can continue, and anyone that is part of this, that we can continue meeting. I think this will be monthly at least for now. And then definitely the residents and the stakeholders are invited to these meetings moving forward. Just some quick kind of next steps is going to create some measures to keep the ball rolling, to make sure that we're understanding all the different measures, potentially even inviting other Kern County CSC members to talk about their pesticide measures in their communities. and see how we can streamline the work, making sure that we take advantage of all the regulatory agencies that already work together on this.
Thank you, Gus, for those comments. Bianca, I would love to invite you to see if you had any other reflections in addition to those great ones from Gus.
Yeah, I just wanted to address that now that we did have the subcommittee meetings, it's giving the opportunity to residents to go in depth in a lot of these SERP measures, and it gives the opportunity to have other state agency and local agencies to participate in this process. It makes it more clear, more understandable for residents to view that there's some changes happening, even though it does take some time. But at the end of the day, I think that it's important to have all the key players there and to continue doing the work. I know there's going to be a cross collaboration between another committee, but I think it's going to be for the good because we are all here united and we're going to be here working together. And as of now that we are towards the end of getting the SERP approved on October the 13th, I think it's important to address which is a priority in these measures, because we need to roll these out. We can't wait another month to see what's the next step. We do have the opportunity to view every single SERP and maybe even at another meeting to go more in depth. So I appreciate that the Air District and the facilitators are here to support the residents and whatever they need. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Bianca, and both of you. And I'd love to invite two more people to introduce themselves. We have the UC Davis team that's currently working on a research study on the implementation of AB 617 in San Joaquin Valley. So I would love to welcome Peter, and if you would like to introduce the other team member, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniela, the Harder & Koch team, and thank you to Jessica, the Air District, and also the co-lead, Gustavo and Bianca, for having us. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen us, our UC Davis team, at a lot of these meetings before. You see my name pop up quite a bit, but yeah, we're part of the UC Davis team studying the implementation of AB 617, particularly in the San Joaquin Valley. So looking at the 4 communities here. And our primary method is observing these meetings and seeing how that's going. So you'll see us kind of just in the background, observing what's going on at all these CSC and subcommittee meetings. Yeah, and we just appreciate you having us here. And we wanted to introduce a new member that just joined us, Ariana. We'll have Ariana just quickly introduce herself, but I'll pop my contact info. If anyone had any questions about our study, you can feel free to email me there if you have any other questions or comments, but I'll hand it over to Ariana to quickly introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ariana Corpus, and I'm a 4th year at UC Davis, and I'm majoring in chemical engineering and minoring in sustainability in the built environment, and I'm an undergrad assistant.
Thank you so much for the important work you're doing, and for everyone, thank you for sharing your information. I'm sure folks might reach out to you. All right, team, we are ready to move on to hear from Eric at the Valley Air District team, who's going to give you an update on the action item tracker.
Hi, good afternoon, folks. My name is Eric Salas, and let me go ahead and share my screen. Alrighty, let me move all of our faces because it's kind of blocking our action items. Okay, awesome. So first of all, these are our action items from our August meeting that happened the 24th. So I'll go ahead and start out. So develop more public awareness campaigns. For example, reports on pollution violations. So the district's going to continue to update any reporting spikes and continue to work with any environmental justice groups that's looking for that information. CSC and the Air District are going to work together in the future to prioritize SERPs. Well, here we are today, and I'm very happy to announce that that's going to go in our complete section. Alrighty, the Air District will send out an email to the CSCs after the CAR board meetings in October with updates. So as Bianca stated, we're very much involved, and we're going to let you all know how that meeting went and present and to see what happens in that meeting. So for the pesticide subcommittees, as Gustavo said, we had our awesome meeting yesterday that happened between 4 to 5:30 p.m. We did send out a Zoom link, and we definitely look forward to any future pesticide subcommittee meetings, and we hope that you all joined. And we did have a complaint for a reoccurring odor that happened in 2021 from one of our CSC members, and we did file an investigation. Is going to be ongoing, so we're still looking into that. And moving on to our completed section. So CARB will review the SERP and send to CARB board for approval by October 13th. So CARB will send the SERP to the CARB board by October 13th. And you all should have received an email, and I'll go ahead after the action items, drop a link to that so you guys can get some more information in English and in Spanish. So CSC members are encouraged to send CARB or Michelle Byers any feedback for the survey that was sent out prior to our August meeting. I believe that ended August 31st. So if you had any questions or reoccurring statements for that, go ahead and email Michelle Byers for any additional feedback. So our final item, CARB is sending out the request for information. So this item was for farm equipment, and I believe a member of the public had a question or a further question about some of the programs that CARB and the San Joaquin Valley Air District had. That information has been sent out. And that is all. Thank you so much.
Michelle,
Oh,
the audio is a little bit difficult to hear from my end.
Same.
It's still, yeah, it
sound
sounds like you're underwater. Pop in later during the meeting if you're able to comment then if the audio resolves itself. Wonderful. As always, this space, you're able to ask any clarifying questions, submit any, share anything with Eric Sala. So I see Mario, you have your hand raised, so I'll just create some space for you. Yeah, take it away. Feel free to unmute yourself. Oh, you're muted.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I got two questions on the public awareness. What type of deal are you guys planning to do on that public awareness?
Hi, Mario. So recently we posted on our website our weekly updates. So I could go ahead and drop that in a link in that for our Arvin and Lamont folks.
And I
Yeah,
think
but
one of the things-
we need more in that right there, because that, a lot of people don't use the internet to find out, about public awareness and all that stuff. We need more like flyers and stuff like that people could educate themselves on what's going on.
Yeah, I hear you, Mario. One of the things I think we can do in taking a look at that action item, I think it was specific to how folks can file complaints and what to even look out for in order to file a complaint, or even just be aware of what to look out for in terms of air pollution. We certainly have a lot of materials, and I wonder if we can make space at the next agenda to have space to specifically talk about those materials, and then even come up with a way to send materials to you all to pass out, like you said, flyers or anything kind of related to that, and make space to get feedback from you all on what that outreach could look like.
Okay, but you guys could put that on the newscast right there, like the people most wanted, something like that. Show the public awareness on newscasts and all that. I mean, instead of putting it on the internet, a lot of people do not use the internet. And we
Yeah.
will not get educated on that.
Right.
And I would like to see that in on the news or something.
Yeah. Heather maybe can talk a little bit about, I saw you lean in, and I know Heather from our outreach and communications department maybe can talk about the things we do besides the internet. Just really briefly, Heather, if you can.
Yep, definitely. Hi, Mario. As you know, we actually do spend a lot of time talking to those news stations too. So thank you for that. We work hard all season long to get them to talk about what the air quality is and the tools to inform them and how to understand it. We also do direct outreach, right? In the community where we have a presence in many ways, both from physical talking to people, out in the community, all the way to, social media ads and the internet, and newspaper and you name it, every medium out there, from billboards to print, to the printed materials. And I can definitely dig up some things to share with you. Even if you'd like to send you those weeklies, I can do that too.
Yeah, the thing is that we already got like 6 months trying to get information for the people, and I haven't seen nothing. I mean, I think we should try to put that on first base,
Yep. And we're talking to schools and yes, all of the above, Mario, directly in the community.
Yeah, definitely. And what I'm hearing.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, what I'm hearing is, since we have a handful of measures we're prioritizing tonight, maybe next meeting, our focus will be on those outreach measures and get actual feedback on them.
Yeah, because a lot of people, they need information to call the air district, the problems that we are having out here. And you guys, I haven't seen no public awareness, no public information, nothing. And I feel that this is what we have to start doing if we want to, progress on what we are doing.
Thank you, Mario. Oh, go ahead.
No, I got another question on that investigation that you have here on Magala and right here where the odor is at. If the water district went over there to investigate and they found problems of the odors, and I feel that we need to send an air monitor to find out what type of gases are coming out of those locations. And I'm talking miles. I'm not talking just in one location. I'm talking miles of it. And we need to figure out what type of gases are coming out of these locations. I thought we could put it on file to know what type of gases are coming out.
Yeah.
And we need one of those we need an air monitor over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I hear you, Mario. And I know that our compliance team, our enforcement team has worked with you and worked with the air board. And that sounds like maybe that's the next step, is understanding what the odors are, to your point. So I've written that down as an action item too. And then we'll directly follow up with you before the next meeting as well, just so I know kind of what the next steps are.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mario. Those are important questions and contributions. With that, I'm going to transition us to talk about the topic of today on the prioritization for the community and resident incentives. I'm going to welcome Jessica back to walk through the presentation with some background about this prioritization process and what you can expect.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daniela. And I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you all got the presentation. Based on some feedback from the facilitation team and your co-leads, we did amend the presentation slightly, but all the information is the same. We just added a little bit more context and made the slides a little bit easier to read. So hopefully you're able to follow along. So as was mentioned a couple of different times, and I think Bianca said it best, is it is now time to start implementing. And one of the things that I want folks to remember is that we have 31 measures in your SERP that you have all decided on, you all supported. We only put it in the SERP if the majority of the committee supported it. The district board approved it, and hopefully here in a couple of weeks, CARB will approve it. 12 of those measures are incentives measures. 19 of those measures are what we're just going to call non-incentives measures. So those are things like outreach, what Mario was just talking about, things like enforcement, which we'll talk about at future meetings, things like looking at rules and regulations, partnering with other agencies. Those are all the measures that don't necessarily pay money to exchange like one thing for another. The incentives measures are the ones where we're prioritizing the funding that we essentially either pay to residents directly, or pay to cities and counties, or pay to folks that have large pieces of equipment in order to reduce emissions. Because we're spending funding that we get from the state, all of those incentives measures, even if they're approved, hopefully by CARB in a couple of weeks, and we have no doubt that that will be the case, all of those still need to have some sort of additional approval from CARB. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a couple of slides. So because of that approval, we want to make sure we discuss priorities. We're going to discuss priorities for everything, incentives and non-incentives, but it's really important for us in terms especially of the incentives measures, because it helps us communicate back to CARB the sort of the urgency of getting approval to spend the funding on those measures. None of what we're going to talk about today and any of our prioritization means that measures aren't going to be pursued. All measures will happen, even if we don't rank them very high. We might still pursue it at almost the same rate, depending on the type of measure. It just means the higher priority, or what we hear from you all is the most important measure to talk about, will really be the type of measure we bring back frequently. A really good example just now was something Mario just mentioned about outreach being really important. When we get to that next month and we talk about measures related more to outreach, as that ranks higher in importance, it just means that we will more frequently have discussions where we work with you all on getting details and input from you on how to do outreach. It doesn't mean that we won't do that for other things, but we'll just do it more frequently for the higher priority measures. Our goal today is to hear from you all what your highest priority measures are in essentially two categories. We didn't feel like we had time to do 31 measures today, so we're breaking it up into two categories. And those two categories are the community measures, so measures like planting trees in the community or improving the roads, as well as residential measures. So measures where you as residents would get the incentive to maybe get a new car or a new lawnmower. So we'll have all of that. And again, the slides that you all received or that were posted, you'll hopefully be able to see a little bit ahead if you're curious. So what I mentioned earlier, and I'm happy to stop here and take some questions if folks have questions. There's essentially, so CARB approval is, like I said, is required for all SERP incentives measures. They are broken up into two main categories. Either CARB already approved it like a while ago in what they call the funding guidelines, and we would be able to fund those immediately. For the most part, those types of measures are the measures that are like heavy duty trucks. And those aren't on the discussion today. For measures that are more related to the measures we're talking about today, meaning measures that are for residents or measures that go to communities or even to cities and counties, those have to be approved through what we call a project plan. And I'm wondering if, Eric, can you drop in a link to, for example, to Shafter's grants and incentives page? And that way, folks, if you're curious to see what project plans look like or what kind of that process will eventually look like for you, you can pop in there and see. But essentially, we have this benefit in some way that Arvin is our third year community, meaning we already have 3 other CERPs that we have gone through this project plan process for, at least for some of the measures. So what you're going to see in these slides and any other slides we ever show you in the future is sort of a set of projects that have already been approved in other CERPs. So hopefully it's faster for us to get approval from CARB. There's also going to be projects that are close to getting approval, and we hope to have them approved soon. And then there are projects that are unique to Arvin and Lamont that will still need new project plans. The reason I'm telling you this is we actually had a great request from our co-leads to make sure that you all understood as community members when you're looking at all of these measures and doing some sort of prioritization, or at least letting us know what your highest priorities are, you have a good understanding of how quickly we can implement these, meaning what other extra work might there be. So that's just for your own information. It might not be something that you consider. It's totally up to you as an individual, what you let us know your highest priorities are. So these next two slides are just a quick reminder. And I will drop in the chat, Eric, if you can also do this, the link to this presentation so you can follow along on your own. Again, hopefully, if you are one of our residents who receives a mail packet, you should have received this in your packet. But just really briefly, I'll walk you through what these tables look like, and we'll go ahead and put them back up if you ever need them through the rest of the exercise. But we essentially, for the residential benefits measures, we have a measure for residential lawn and garden and commercial lawn and garden. So lawn and garden equipment that's used maybe in parks or schools nearby you. These are both something that are approved in other CERPs. So we hope it's something that's actually very quickly approved for you all. And you can see here what the incentive is and what the total reductions are. We also have incentives for vehicle repair. We are still in the process of getting approval and working on those project plans and other CERPs. So it's a little further along, but not quite there. And then finally, incentives for vehicle replacement is something that we still haven't had submitted to CARB and other CERPs. So you would sort of be chugging along at the same rate as the other communities, and something that might not be quite as expedited, but we know might still be high priority for you. And then I'll just, as a quick reminder, and again, we'll come back to these, but I just wanted to share, these are the other four, and then we'll go through this exercise. The other community measures that we're going to discuss today are the 2 tree planting measures. Something that I want to thank Bianca for is we added a little context to the bigger measures that take longer, not only to show you, yes, the projects are approved in other CERPs, but these projects are long-term and they could take a couple of years to implement. The same is true for the road and sidewalk and installation and bike paths projects. So that's the timeline there, and that's kind of an average timeline. It could take a little longer. They're big, big projects. And then finally, the public fleet vehicles projects. Again, we're waiting approval in other CERPs, but we think this is a much shorter term project than the other 2. So that's sort of the foundation for from which we're going to work. I can pass it now to Daniela to talk about sort of the exercise we want to go do with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Gus, I'm wondering if it's a question for Jess, and then before I get into instructions, I'd love for you to get your question in if it's around the same topic.
I believe it is.
Go for it.
Yes. Can you go back a slide? Okay, cool. And so essentially what you're requesting from us, the community steering committee, or all of us present here, is to talk about, on the 13th of October, the final, CERP approval will happen. Fingers crossed. I mean, it pretty much sounds like it will. Once that is approved, then all measures, how much do we have in total here?
We have in total over $30 million.
But as far as measures, is there like 30 measures, 20 measures? Do we know?
Oh, I see. Yes. In total, all 31 measures will be approved by CARB to implement. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So after on October 14th, assuming we're there, we have 31 measures to work with, right? Some of them are stuff that the Air District has already done before 617, and some of it is relatively new as far as, for example, I'll use an existing CERP, Shafter, pesticide notification. That's something new that the Valley Air District doesn't normally do, right? Or has normally done historically. And so part of the discussion is looking and understanding all the 31 measures that will be passed. we will then look at which ones are green, so which ones are like ready to hit the ground running, or need very, very little approval. Then the other colors, like maybe there needs some work, and then some that essentially maybe is not within the purview or jurisdiction of the Valley Air District, but could be under partnership agreements with the Department of Pesticide Regulations, Caltrans, etc. Right? So stuff that needs a little bit more approval from your own Valley Air District board.
Yes. So
right.
separating that from incentives, yes. So all of the partnership measures, that is exactly right. For just the incentives measures, the district generally has the authority to move them forward, but we do need approval from CARB and sometimes from our board, depending on the project, for the incentives measures. For the partnership measures, we actually don't need, after CARB's approval on the 13th, we don't need any additional approval to pursue all of those partnership measures. So those are all good.
Okay. Sorry, I thought I was on mute. Okay, cool. That makes sense. And then going further, there is community strategies and then residential strategies, right? So community meaning it benefits writ large the community, right? So if if local grower has very old, outdated nuts harvesters and gets a new one, then that benefits the community with large, right? Because the emissions will go down.
So what we did, just to help clarify a little bit there, we broke them up the same way they're in the SERP. So hopefully all of these benefit the community, right? All of the ones that help residents or help the city or help a local grower should all reduce air pollution. That is the goal. What we're talking about here, the way we broke the SERP up, if you recall, are sort of where the incentives dollars go. So if they go to residents, we called them residential measures. If they go to community, meaning like the city or the county, somewhere where like there's a community space, they were community. Later, and maybe we should have added a slide to list all of the additional measures. Later at a future meeting, we will talk about the measures that hit the business community. So all of the like tractors and low dust harvesters and alternatives to ag burn, pesticides, all of those. We wanted to, because ranking 31 measures in one meeting felt like a lot, the idea was to break them up into these 2 small categories and then next month tackle 2 more categories and so on.
Got it. Okay. So it's essentially we're looking at we'll say 15 now and then 16 next time, and then looking at those first bunch and seeing out of this first bunch, which one as residents or steering committee members do we align more with being important?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. That's a perfect way to describe it, Gus.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We can go to Mario next.
Yeah, I got a question on, are there not be any rules and regulations on each and every projects that we have?
Rules and regulations on how the project works?
How the money to be spent and all that?
Yes, so I believe, I can't see the chat as well, but maybe just if you go to what Eric Salas dropped into the chat somewhere, and if it hasn't happened already, we'll maybe redrop it in the chat. You can see an example of what that project plan is, exactly what you talk about, Mario. It is sort of the outline of how the funding is spent, meaning like how folks are prioritized or how the outreach is conducted or how we get how we calculate like emissions reductions from that particular measure.
Yeah, I was say on saying that if we put a station in one of our local parks or something, is it a benefit the park or is it a benefit the citizens? Or saying if the park is gonna get the money or how does that work?
So for example, I think when you're saying park, are you talking about like planting trees?
No, like a a play park.
Right. Sorry, what CERT measure are you asking about?
I'm asking, like, saying if you have those chargers, you know, to charge up electrical
Ah,
cars.
that's a great question. So we did not include chargers in the SERP. If you all recall, we collectively as a CSC, as majority, did not include charging stations in the SERP. So that will not be a measure we pursue. But any charging station would benefit the whole community, because the idea with charging stations is that it encourages more folks to transition to electric vehicles. But because that's not one of the measures we're prioritizing today, it's not in the SERP. So we won't be talking about those.
Yeah, how I seen it from the beginning, that's why I was asking.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Señor Gustavo?
Hi, good evening. A couple of comments. So, so if I understand correctly, so what we are going to review and provide feedback this evening is for the incentive SERPs for the number 2s and number 3s, what I think Jessica referred to, community projects, and the ones like heavy equipment. We will not talk about those.
We will
this
talk
evening.
about them at the next meeting is our goal.
Okay, that's great. And I think maybe it will be a request. We were with the steering committee members. We had a meeting, trying to prep for this meeting, and it was, for as was even for me, was difficult to go to each SERP and trying to have an idea, to like prepping for us, for today, for us to have an idea what are the priorities for the community, trying to do the homework. And it was very difficult because we were not able to find like what you are presenting right now. I think in chapter you have everything together, like what you're presenting right now, is that for the number 2s and number 3s is all condensed in like 1 or 2 pages. Can you do that for all the projects, the incentive SERPs and non-incentive? So, and if you can share that with us, like the one that you are sharing right now, I think that will be easier for all of us to follow up on the meetings and also, to maybe come in more prepared, to meetings to provide, our comments. That will be a huge help for us moving forward if you can.
Definitely. So just what Gustavo's, so first of all, hopefully folks got the presentation, because the table I'm sharing right now was in the presentation we sent out. And hopefully that was a good condensed version of the slides and of the discussion today. But to Gustavo's point, we are going to create a comprehensive list for all the measures. It's what we call our progress tracker. And what Gustavo is mentioning is we do this already in the other SERPs. And typically we've done it pretty much right after the SERP gets adopted by CARB. So we are in the process of making one right now, and we will send that out to you. And just so you know, Gustavo and folks, is for any person that gets the hard copy sent to them, we will print that tracker every month and send it to you. So you can always see the status update, even if we don't get a chance to talk about it during the meeting.
Yeah, and will you also include it on the email, like because I only receive the digital through email. I don't know if I think the last for this meeting you just added the parts of the whole document. I think that's what when I opened the link, I think it was just the SERPs, but with all the explanation for each SERP. It was not something like this. So I think if you can, if you send, to the committee members that got the regular mail, if you can include that same format for us that don't get the hard copies, will be great.
Yes, one thing we've been doing, but that's a good reminder, Gustavo, is we typically have a link in our, but I'm not sure if it happened this time, but we typically have a link in the email that says where all of the meeting materials are, but we can be more explicit and let folks know that this is the presentation with all of the information.
Yeah, I think that will be because we were trying to going through the agenda and trying to look for those documents, and I think, as I mentioned, I think it was just the pages on the whole document, but not something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and just another comment, and since we were we went on the district's page and trying to find the information, and we noticed that I think the English version of the approved SERPs document and the Spanish version are not the same. I think the Spanish version is dated May 27, and the English version is June 16, if I'm correct. And the question is for us is the Spanish version updated the same to the English version?
Yes, it is. That's a great point, Gustavo, because we did not take, our board only adopts the English document. That is why it just happens to have a different date, but that is a good reminder for us to double check and make sure we have an updated cover that indicates that that is the final approved one from the CSC.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both. We have one more comment and then we can transition to the instructions. María.
Sí, buenas tardes. Sí.
Buenas tardes.
Solo tengo una pregunta. Quería saber si las gráficas que están poniendo las mandaron en el correo a las casas, porque pues no llegaron más que, lo único que me llegó fue la agenda. Fue lo único que me llegó. Entonces, no sé si esas gráficas que ustedes están poniendo ahí las mandaron por correo regular a las casas, porque yo creo que si no las mandaron, pues nosotros ahorita, no sé si a las demás personas les hayan llegado esas gráficas, pero si no, pues no tenemos idea tampoco de que iban a hacer grupos o cosas así, hasta ahorita que yo estoy viendo la agenda y que ustedes están mencionándolo ahí. Entonces, esa era mi pregunta y no sé qué está pasando. Gracias.
I see. So it's possible, and that could be our mistake. Maybe it didn't get printed and put in the packets. Hopefully everyone can see it right now. And this is the best part about right now is it's just a discussion. And I want to reiterate that none of the input today, we're not making decisions. It's really just to hear from you all what your priority measures are. And I'm happy to keep my screen share so you can kind of dig in and see. We did post the meeting materials a week out, but it sounds like maybe they didn't get noticed to folks, and we're taking note that we'll make sure that on the emails, we make it explicit where the meeting materials are posted as well. And one of the things that we've done in Chapter, and maybe it makes sense to do here as well, is link within the agenda also where all of the meeting materials are, so that folks that are reading the agenda don't have to go back to the email either. So I'm seeing some thumbs up and some nods. That was a great sort of committee request in Chapter, and we're happy to make that apparent here, so you don't have to go searching all over. Hopefully we all feel comfortable. Again, it's just to let us know what you personally feel is a high priority for you. It's not going to change. Like I said, we're still pursuing everything. It'll just help us understand that something might be slightly higher priority. We can keep coming back and asking for folks if your priorities change, and keep working with the co-leads on updating this process as well.
Great. Thank you, everyone. That's important feedback. It's important to hear that from you today, because we will have many of these kinds of discussions. And so, the Air District will create a similar table that you will be able to reference for future meetings. So it seems like the presentation is now also linked in the chat and then also displayed on here. With that, again, like Jessica mentioned, if we need to bring this topic back, we can, right? It's really, we're going to go at the flow that the CSC response is comfortable with. So we'll definitely want to hear from you about that. I think we could share the instructions. And again, we are always thinking, how can we create space for you all to engage at these meetings that they are quite big. And so we have proposed this exercise. And so I'll share those instructions, but again, always want to hear your feedback about how this lands, especially because, you know, it sounds like you didn't necessarily have what you would have liked in order to have that pre-meeting prep. So totally understand that. And I'll just share these instructions. What you see on here is exactly what was described in terms of the resident incentives that we will be looking at. So we're proposing that because we want to give you all just like 10 minutes. We're proposing to break you up into small groups. If you're not joining in a place where there's multiple of you like CSC members in one room, we're proposing to put you all into small breakout rooms. And so that small breakout room would be in pairs. You would be with one other person just to do a quick kind of brainstorm. Now that you saw these tables, we would love to just have you talk about what are your thoughts about the measures that we're focusing in for today's conversation in terms of the level of priority, as Jessica mentioned, the level of priority in like the fact that those measures will be brought up more frequently and that you will be diving even deeper. There's some measures where you're like, you know what, the air district is moving along. I just want to hear those updates when they're relevant, but I don't need to know the details of everything. I don't need to give feedback about most things. So the proposal here is that you go into small breakout rooms for 10 minutes, quick brainstorm. It'll be random. And, you know, you will be able to participate in English if that's what you're comfortable with, or in Spanish. And we would just ask that you talk about one or two questions, whatever you're able to get through. But really, which measures that were presented by Jessica are you most interested in discussing in more detail at future meetings? And maybe you want to talk about which measures you're most passionate about. Maybe you feel most passionate because there's specific measures that relate to specific issues in your community that are most important, and you want to make sure that you bring those back more often. So that's kind of the proposal, that we would send you to breakout rooms with one other person. But if you're joining from a meeting with multiple people at your house or in a physical space, you would not necessarily be assigned to separate CSC members. You would just talk to the folks that you are meeting with. And the important thing to mention is that we would bring back, after 10 minutes, we would bring you all back and then talk about everything that you would like to talk about. We would talk about what are your main, what are some of the biggest priorities when it comes to those measures to kind of bring back, and which ones you're most passionate about. So the proposal is just to have a breakout room for 10 minutes, do a quick brainstorm with someone else, have a thought partner, and then bring the group back. And then everyone gets to engage in that group conversation together. We've heard from you many times that you really value that larger group discussion. And so we want to prioritize space for that, and also recognize that some people could use a smaller group for just like getting in the right space for these kind of questions. So Gustavo, I'd love to turn it over to you.
Yeah, I think the question I have, so you said the break room will be just 2 people in each break room. Is that the best way to hear everybody's comments? Because I think we may benefit more if we hear, you know, each other. Because my assumption is that we are going to meet just 2 per room, and then coming back and sharing. I'm not sure if that's the best way, the best use of our time.
I think maybe we could do 2 or 3. I think the idea, as Daniela mentioned, is just to kind of start getting some discussions among members, but spend the majority of the time with everyone back in this room. It was just to kind of start the conversation. And we've found sometimes when we have even bigger breakout groups, not every voice kind of gets a chance to speak if we have only 10 minutes. By the time sometimes you share who you are, your name, you introduce yourself. If everyone goes around and there's 5 or 6 people, that takes the whole time. So maybe a shorter, smaller groups for 10 minutes, and then the larger discussion. So like you said, everyone can learn from everyone, and the larger discussion was the thought.
And just to add, Gustavo, the idea is not to report back everything from your group. It really is just to get the juices flowing in the discussion, and like, like just, here's how I'm perceiving things. But we're not going to go group by group and report back. We're actually not going to do that at all. We're not going to say, okay, Gustavo's group, what did you talk about? We're going to open the conversation wide open for you to talk about what you want to talk about. It's just a quick brainstorm. Maybe some folks have questions, and then there's an opportunity for other folks to help, be there for one another. So again, it's just 10 minutes. Gustavo, how does that sound? And obviously anyone else that would like to contribute to whether this process seems helpful. Again, we're just trying to think outside of the box in terms of how can we create space for even the voices that sometimes don't really participate, not because of any other reason other than sometimes small group discussions, there's not enough time for everyone. Yeah, how does that all sound?
Sounds good. I don't want, just to slow down the process. I was just wondering on that. Just one more clarifying question. So on the small groups, we are going to talk about these number 2s and the number 3s, or just the 2s?
I think
Both. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
we've posted the questions in the chat. And so hopefully you can use the link, and our team is going to be dropping into your groups, floating in. So if you don't have access to those, we might be able to just basically make note of those 2A, 2B, 2C, 3A, 3, make note of those. If you can pop up your presentation, at least one of you can have it open just so that you can, kind of talk around those.
Thank you.
And we'll try it out, and you might tell us, I'll never want to do that again. And we kind of will take some of that feedback as well. Our team is ready to turn on the groups, and we are going to pop in and out so that we can be there to support you if you have questions. So anyone else, I think we're good to go. I'm going to look at my team and just cue it, and we can take it away. If you see a notification to go into a group, just say yes, go to it. Don't be surprised. There's going to be one more person on there, and you can get started as soon as that second person's there. So as long as you have someone to talk to, you can kind of get started, but it would be one other person. If you are in with multiple people like Maria and Roberto, I see you together, talk with each other. We won't necessarily put you with another group. You'll be just together. Same for other people that are joining in families or just groups. All right, we're ready to go.
Okay, thank you, Daniela. I'm just going to give a little bit of instructions for the breakout room. So I'm going to go ahead and open them. You should get an invite. If you don't, let me know and I can help you find that breakout room invite. As Daniela said, some rooms have more than 2 people. So they do vary. So I'm going to open them now. The rooms have been opened. You should have received an invite. You can accept the invite to go to the breakout room. If you did not, let us know so we can help you navigate that soon.
And for those that are in this main room, for the most part, it's anyone that's still making. Oh, go ahead, Gemma.
Yeah, sorry, Daniela, I wanted to make sure. Jesus and Margie, I see that you haven't joined. Are you having some technical difficulties so we can support you? Jesus, Margie? Okay, I'm just gonna move some people around since I'm not hearing from them to not have people be alone.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll keep checking
iPhone, I'm seeing someone in iPhone. Can you let us know who you are, like providing us your name, please, so we know where to put you in a breakout room?
Maybe ask if someone can ask in Spanish. That
Yeah,
might be the first
hola, la persona que puso español, por favor, ¿puede decirnos su nombre? Para poder, María Martínez, perfecto. Déjeme, la pongo en un breakout room. Un momentito.
I see two iPhones. Do we know which iPhone is she?
Gemma, maybe put both. I mean, sometimes folks step away or whatnot, so it could be that they come back and.
María, mandé un invite para un breakout room en español. ¿Podría aceptarlo? Y si no, dígame para poder ayudarla. Okay, they're in a breakout room now.
Thank you, Gemma. I think we got most people in. I think just one person might have stepped away, but this is pretty good. I am just sharing my screen with a message for the YouTube channel. We had 5 people watching. So just so that they know that we'll be back in 10 minutes. Feel free to take a stretch break if you're in here, working the meeting, take care of anything you might need. I will be fully on here, making sure that if anyone drops in and out, I can move them around and work with him on that.
Ladies, there's Francisco Gonzalez. I don't know if he got a break room.
Since they're in a group in the physical location, so they're supposed to just talk with one another because there's multiple CSC members there, right? I see multiple people with Francisco.
No, I actually sent Francisco an invite to room 12 in Spanish. Francisco, you should have received an invite. If you don't see it, you can go to the bottom. And then the little breakout tab at the bottom, if you click it, there should be an invite right there.
But Hamad, it will just be them, right? They won't be
there's somebody else there in the room.
Okay.
So I sent an invite so that even if there were groups, yeah. But I think maybe they're just having a little difficulty finding it. So Bianca, if you can let them know that they received an invite.
I think they're gone. We also have Jesus Perez.
Yeah, Jesus Perez, I'm still seeing that they didn't join. I can move them to another room since the person that I put them with was alone. So if Jesus is there, I can go ahead and put them in another room, but they didn't accept the invite.
Yeah, Bianca, I think they might have stepped away for a sec.
I was in a breakout room, but I was the only one there, so I just left.
Yeah, the person might have. Let me put you back. I can move you to another one because the person just left as well. Let me put you in another room, Bianca. Okay, I just sent you an invite for another room. Okay, I think we're good. Everyone is in a room now.
Thank you, Gemma. Yeah, no, I just to kind of make a comment. I know we're live, but just want to recognize like it was really helpful to hear what everyone was thinking about, how we're prioritizing. So I think we're off to a good start.
I think so too. And I appreciate your comment and everyone being flexible with us to see how this goes. And then if, like you said, if we hate this, then we don't have to ever do it, but it's fun to shake it up and not have just everyone, the same, handful of us talk at everyone for 2 hours.
Awesome.
Okay, I just sent a broadcast message in English and Spanish that there's about 2 more minutes left, and then we'll close the rooms for 10-minute total. So I want them to close the room and then just give them 60 seconds if they don't. So we'll give that time and then we should have everyone back.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I see CSC members coming back into the larger group, and we'll just wait for everyone else to close out their conversation. And we're going to turn it back to the larger group in a second. Eager to hear your thoughts. We still have a couple people. Hi, Christine.
Hi. So we were kind of expecting some of the Air District staff to actually be in our meeting to help guide some of our questions, and nobody popped into our meeting. So we still have a lot of questions.
Questions are great. Yeah, we're not. Sorry, go ahead, Daniela, you can explain.
Sorry, I know we were trying to say the same thing. Christine, the idea was to give you some raw space for you to identify what are the questions you have, what are the things that are coming to mind, just a space for you to process without any of us there. And right now is when we want to hear all of the questions, all the thoughts. So this is perfect timing. And again, we're not on any kind of rush timeline. We're on the timeline that you all feels good. And so we're about to get into the discussion with the larger group. So those are all great.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I was just confused and I was like, I have questions. I don't know how to answer.
Absolutely. I think Hema, you'll let me know once everyone's back?
Everyone's back, Daniela.
Okay, beautiful. So we can get right started with that conversation. Just want to thank you for trying something different. I know that's kind of the first time ever where we have such a small group. I really would love to turn it over to Jessica if you wanted to make any comments as we dive into this conversation, and maybe the co-leads will want to launch some of it. Really flexible here.
Yes, so I'll just mention, so what we'll do is, just because it sounds like folks have still some questions, and maybe since we don't yet have that more comprehensive tracker for folks to kind of study up ahead of time, which we'll be sure to have before every meeting kind of here on out, is our thought is maybe just starting with 4 residential measures. So measures that are labeled 2, I'll bring them up on the slide, and maybe we can all share whether it's questions you have for us, we have folks to answer, or you just want to raise your hand or share in the chat what of those 4, what is just sort of like your highest priority or the measure you're most passionate about, just of those 4. That maybe that will help us kind of break up the conversation a little bit. I'm going to share my slide, share my screen, and then from there, I'm happy to take any questions or comments, and I'll just kind of keep the slide up while I answer questions or folks share kind of their thoughts.
Wonderful. And maybe we can kick it off with Bianca, who has their hand raised, and want to invite anyone else that wants to contribute at this time. Feel free to raise your hand and we'll go through and start calling everyone. Bianca, take it away.
So right now in our group discussion, we did talk about like the big amounts, like the incentive for vehicle replacement. We don't know the logistics on a lot of these measures and how it's going to be handled to the community. We don't know if it's going to be so much allocated that a resident won't have to pay for a vehicle. Those are the logistical pieces that we're looking at. If deciding which one is a priority and which one's not, because of how it's looked at the moment. It's not something that has more details that we were looking for.
So just to remind folks, and this is just a good reminder that larger list, comprehensive list, will be important. This measure was 20,000 per vehicle from that discussion that we had. I don't know if maybe that's just a note that it sounds like maybe that's higher up to have earlier discussions on. Or I don't know if you have more questions about it, because I know that we have Todd here from our incentives team too that can help answer details. But knowing that the more frequently we can talk about measures is one of the questions for us today. It sounds like maybe Bianca, for your group, since so many folks had questions about that and it was a high measure, maybe that's one of the ones we just put early on to kind of hammer out some of the details.
Great.
Sorry, I also had a question because now that we're mentioning the logistics, how about for the oh my goodness, I have it in my notes. I don't know if you could go down to the next one.
Our thought right now, just so you know, but I'm happy to answer the question, is maybe to take it the first category first. So we can kind of separate.
Yes, I just had a question in regards to the road and sidewalks. Is it a measure that has to be kind of match? What happened is after the county had to match the money, I'm wondering in this instant, does it have to be matched or not?
Todd, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. This is Todd DeYoung. I'm the Director of Grants and Incentives here at the Air District. Great question. Generally speaking, in these types of programs, we like to see match. It makes the project more beneficial. You get more bang for your buck. You can extend your available funding. That being said, we don't want that match funding to become an impediment to getting the project done. And so in Shafter, what we did is we actually went back, and in a couple of other communities, we've actually removed the match funding requirement, because what we saw is that it was going to actually prevent the projects from getting done. And these are otherwise really, really good projects. So we actually removed that at the committee's request. And so it does sort of open the door to those types of projects to getting done without that match requirement. Now that's not going to, that doesn't mean that we're not going to, actively look for matching funds, to do all those things, extend the benefits of the project and those things, but it's not a strict requirement. And I would envision the same in this community here, that while we would really like to see match funding, it wouldn't be a hard and fast requirement.
And in the SERP, we say exactly what Todd just said. It says we will search for match, but it will not be necessarily required.
Wonderful. We'll go to the next person on here, Gustavo, Señor Gustavo.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We just talked about number 3. And I think that too, and it was with, my compañera from Leadership Council. And we were talking about, in my experience, also being engaged in chapter that, the residents want to see projects that directly go to the community, coming late. We were talking, and also, Sandra was talking about, the need for example, for hilltop that are surrounded by orchards. So we were thinking that, the green barriers, the vegetative barriers, that should be want to start. And one reason is, I think it can help improve the protection of the residents, both from harvesting operations and from pesticides, but also because I think it was shared with Shafter, the process, and if I recall correctly, I think it was mentioned that to approve the process, a project on that will be like until the end of next year, so it will take time. And I think we want those projects to start now, knowing that are going to happen. I think those will not stop other projects to start moving also, but we want those kind of projects to start soon. And it's the same with the sidewalks. I think sidewalks also will take time. In my experience working with the county, it takes 2-3 years to see the building of a project. So I think those two things will go directly to the community. I think, as you mentioned, Jessica, the community projects, and those are priorities that with the residents that we work, several CSC members here and other residents, that's a priority for them. So those were the two priorities that we said that it will be great to start, understanding that there are all the other priorities are good, but I think some of the other priorities can start moving. Even just the air district can move those without much involvement of us. But so that was our conversation in our break room. The green barriers and sidewalks and all of that. Those two.
Okay. Thank you, Gustavo. That's super helpful and appreciate your comments. I'm going to go to Christine. Take it away.
Thank you. So yeah, along Gustavo's line, being that more than likely the entity will be forwarding these projects, and in particular with the road, sidewalk, and bike lanes, I already know these projects can take a minimum of a year to 18 months from design to procurement to implementation. So I'm wanting to make sure that we, those items that require our project plan are addressed early and often, so we can get them moving forward so that there's not a delay. And the same thing with even the replacement for residents, I think it requires a plan. We should talk about it, because On that one, I want to make sure it's, as fair as possible. Are we going to have a lottery? Are we going to do first come, first serve? And then I needed some clarification on that vehicle replacement incentive. So as I understand it, it's $20,000 from AB 617 per resident, but then the resident is also eligible for other incentives through the Air District and other organizations. And I think we need to make sure that's clear, because there has been some comments about in chapter, nobody applied. And I think the reason they didn't apply perhaps was because it wasn't enough money. And, dealing with residents who don't make a lot, they're in poverty. We need to figure out a way and strategize to make it a good incentive. So hopefully the project will be oversubscribed, and we'll have so many people applying so that we'll have to maybe do a lottery, first come, first serve, and then consider a lottery if they are eligible for the program. So those are my comments. Thanks.
Great notes. I just wanted to add one quick thing, but I think your point is well taken. Just to clarify, this program has not yet been launched in Shafter either. So we haven't launched it in any of the AB 617 communities yet. But all of your points were super well taken, and I think your priorities make sense to us and seem to align with Gustavo's.
Well, thank you.
Wonderful. Just want to make a reminder, we only have one more hand raised. And so if you have other thoughts that are coming up, you can make comments around 2. And then in a second, we'll also share the screen on the 2 measures labeled 3. So raise your hand if you would like to make some comments. Jesus Alonso, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. I really agree with everything that's been said so far. I would like to see 2A, 2B, and 2C prioritized. Like it was said, because of the amount of time and because it is more closely related or closer to directly impacting the community. Additionally, like 3A, 3B, 3C. What I wanted to touch on for the vehicle replacement, though, is there was, in the group that I was a part of, there was confusion on how that would work. And we even discussed that it may even be better to layer the incentives, because I know there's the Valley Cam program, and they already have a system on how to qualify people and how much they qualify for. And what I was sharing is that, if I remember correctly, through ValleyCan, if you're low income and you try to go for a plug-in hybrid, you could get up to like close to 7,000, 9,000. And then if they were with what I had envisioned for the vehicle replacement here is that in addition, if they're from Lamont, Arvin, and they qualify, they would get an additional amount. That way more people would be eligible, and more people would get more incentive for the vehicle they're trying to purchase. And so I would love to see either like a committee or like to kind of, iron out those wrinkles and answer those questions.
Jesus, this is Todd DeYoung again from the Air District. Great question and great insight. And I think, definitely bears some additional discussion. The idea was that you're correct. We operate a program with Valley Can. They're our contractor, the Drive Clean and the San Joaquin program. And yeah, you can get up to $9,500 for a replacement vehicle. This measure was designed to essentially mirror that program, except you would get up to $20,000 instead of the $9,500. So it's basically same criteria for participation, You know, same process to go through. Now, you know, certainly we want to have some more discussion with the committee about prioritization. I think that's a big one. You know, whether that's you know, if we have more people interested than we have eligible vehicles, you know, I think that's definitely going to be, as we move this measure forward, where a lot of the discussion is going to end up is, you know, how to prioritize who is first in line, who gets the new vehicles, and you know, everything that goes around that. And I think we want to make it, obviously, we want to make it fair and equitable, you know, and to the extent that we can, understanding that we do only have a limited amount of funding. But the mechanics of the program and the way the CERP measure was written is that it follows the existing program, the existing district program, and just adds another $10,500 or $11,000 to it. So it's up to $20,000 instead of $9,500.
Okay, so then it would later, they would need to qualify for Valley Can first. They would get the 9,000 there, and then they would get an additional 11,000 for living in the community.
In essence, yeah. In fact, we're even going to talk to Valley Can about maybe partnering with us to implement this program within Arvin. So essentially, yeah, you would qualify for the program through Valley Can or through the Air District, and then instead of getting up to $9,500, you would get up to that $20,000.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because I was thinking, like, if one person is getting 20,000, you know, if they get 9,000 from one source, and then the other 12,000 from another source, then essentially we'll be doubling the number of vehicles that are being
right. Yeah, no, the idea was that all $20,000 per each vehicle would come from the 617 funding, the dedicated AB 617 funding.
Okay, sorry, I think I got a bit confused there. Can you say that again?
Sure. So in this measure, the entire $20,000 per vehicle would all come from the dedicated AB 617 funding. This is funding specifically for this community.
So then they would not get any funding from Valley Can.
No, that's other Air District funding available to the entire valley. This is specific funding, so all of the $20,000 for each vehicle would come from the 617 program.
And one of the things I'm kind of hearing is this sounds like, to Jesus's point, one that maybe we have an in-depth set time for discussion at a future meeting, not only about this kind of funding and how it would work, but even to Todd's point about like outreach and prioritization and next steps. And maybe we can take some of the questions we've heard from Jesus as a starting point for that discussion.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Wonderful. And related to that comment, we got a message from Kevin Hamilton saying that a number of groups like CCE, JN, and CCAC are already assisting residents to access these programs. So an opportunity there as well. And then Christine also agreeing with Jesus Alonso, wanting to make sure every resident can be driving an EV or hybrid. And so it has an immediate impact on air quality, and Arvin's already having those charging stations available and plans to build more. So thanks for those comments as well. We have a couple more minutes here, so I'd love to turn it over to Maria to share their thoughts.
Sí, mire, yo nada más comentarles que no le vi mucho sentido a estos grupos que se hicieron, ¿verdad? Porque hubiéramos ocupado ese tiempo mejor en hablarlo directamente, ya que estaba una persona nada más con nosotros y no le vi sentido, la verdad. Pero entre mi esposo y yo lo que estuvimos platicando es que las medidas que a nosotros nos gustaría, como esto es un ejercicio, lo que a nosotros nos gustaría como residentes es la barrera vegetativa y las instalaciones de caminos y banquetas. O sea, eso para nosotros aquí en nuestra comunidad nos interesaría mucho, tanto para la contaminación, reducir la contaminación, y también para la misma comunidad. O sea, ese es mi comentario. Gracias.
Gracias, Maria. Thank you for that. we'll definitely take that feedback in. And if others have thoughts about that, I realize that, you know, we are able to switch out to a larger group if that feels more comfortable at the next conversation. But I thank you. And if there's others that have feedback on that exercise, please don't be shy. All feedback is good feedback. I did want to elevate one comment that I missed earlier, and that is just the group with Joanna, Enrique, Rogelio, Victor. We're suggesting that 3D is very important. So just making a note of that. And then I don't see any other hands raised. And this certainly is not the last time that you will be able to make a comment on these measures. If you think of something at the next meeting and you want to drop it in the chat, even if that's not the topic, please definitely continue to bring those ideas. You can always reach out to the Air District after and follow up with more information if you have other thoughts. We know that processing takes time. It's a process. And so please do continue to share that feedback with them. With that, I don't see any other comments, and we're doing pretty good on time to transition over to the standing updates, but I do want to check with the Air District, Jessica, and the co-leads. Are we good to transition?
I'll say from the district side, just to quickly summarize out loud, we heard from a lot of folks, and it sounds like we didn't hear any objections to sidewalks and green barriers and even urban greening being 3 really high priority items, with another high priority item for discussion being the vehicle replacement for residents. Those were the 4 that we heard from several folks. And I just appreciate that. That really does help us a lot. And I know that CARB being on the line and them hearing that helps them a lot too. So it really is helpful. And I just really thank you for humoring us while we tried something a little different today. We didn't want to send out yet another survey for you all to have to fill out. We wanted it to be a little more interactive, but we're happy to debrief with the co-leads about how to do this better at our next meeting. So with that, Daniela, I will say if after Gus and Bianca share their piece, I also believe we might have already received one of the standing updates at the top of the meeting. So that might help us move along as well.
Wonderful. And yes, if you did have feedback about that activity that we did and you want to tell someone, you can tell a co-leads and they can tell us as well. Any way you want to get your message across, we're happy to hear it. Bianca or Gus, would you like to share some comments before transitioning?
Sure. I'll be quick. Yeah, I think just looking at these, I think it's important to really hear from residents what is their priorities, right? I think, like stated at the top of the meeting, each one of these strategies has a direct nexus to either reducing emissions, capping emissions, curbing emissions, or reducing the exposure to it. So yeah, I think it's very important that we have these discussions out loud. Both small group and in big group. The other piece that I did have a bit of follow-up on was, and as soon as it escaped me right as I was if it comes back to me, I will write it in the chat, but it's talking about other strategies being implemented around best practices. So as soon as it comes back up, I will note it on the chat, and then we can continue the meeting.
Thank you, Gustavo. Bianca, some comments you'd like to make at this time?
No comment.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you all. And thank you to everyone that participated and shared their input, and all of you who are also like thinking about all of these things. Grateful for all the mental energy you're giving to this meeting. With that, I'd love to move us along to those standing updates. As Jessica mentioned, we did already hear the pesticide subcommittee, so maybe I'll just start off with the air monitoring status report, and then if there's anything else to add from the pesticide committee, if something came back up, we could create a minute to do that. But if it's okay with folks, let's get started with the air monitoring status report, and then we'll go from there.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Smith. I'm with the community air monitoring team here at the Valley Air District. This is the first time you've seen me. This is the first meeting I've done, but I'm an instrument specialist with the district for your community in Arvin, Lamont. And I'm the one that currently maintains the monitors at Mountain View Elementary School, as well as, or Mountain View Middle School, sorry, as well as El Camino Real and the Bear Mountain Elementary Schools. Just want to give you a couple quick updates. Your community webpage has been updated with the weekly reports, and then we have regular weekly updates on there as well. And so now each time you check, you'll be able to see that there's going to be an updated weekly report and those updates. We are continuing as well to move forward with the deploying of more monitors with the approved community steering committee plan. We're working with Alicante Elementary School regarding electrical and fencing contracts to deploy one of our monitors. We'll also be meeting with the superintendent for Vineland Elementary this week or next week to discuss deployment logistics. We have reached out to both Grimway Farms and Gustavo's group on deploying a monitor near Comanche and De Giro Avenue. And then finally, we have reached out to the Ag Department of Arvin High and are awaiting a follow-up conversation with the placement of the trailer. If that doesn't work, we have a contingency plan to deploy our monitor and trailer with the city of Arvin. That's all the updates I have with you or for you right now. And thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sean Smith. Are there any quick questions about this update? All right, Gustavo?
Me again. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Yeah,
we're excited to hear you.
last night we were talking about pesticides. I think my question is, with this monitoring projects that you share, are you monitoring also pesticides or is just something else?
I can help with that, Sean, a little bit. And then if I miss something, Sean, please. So yeah, the pesticides monitoring, which we will have as a discussion topic at our pesticide meeting, but we're happy to also bring, of course, to the bigger meeting, will be conducted by CARB, sort of in partnership with DPR. It is not the district who's doing that monitoring. But as that gets deployed, we can incorporate that in, working with CARB on the analysis and anything. We're happy to incorporate any of those updates from that monitoring into our district programs. Sean, can you just really quickly, all of the monitoring that you just described, can you just high level, you don't have to go into every single component, describe what the pollutants that we have deployed so far are?
Yeah, so currently right now we are monitoring for PM 2.5 at the Mountain View Middle School, as well as the Bear Mountain and El Camino Real sites. And then we also have an SO2 and H2S monitor at the Mountain View Elementary School, or Middle School, correction. And we also have a BTEX, which measures benzene, ethylbenzene, toluene, and xylene at the Mountain View Middle School as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Sean. Okay, with that, we can, Mario, is you have a question about this? Go ahead.
Yeah, Sean, but I want to know what type of gases are coming up from those locations. Or if you explain what type of gases you see.
So we're monitoring for H2S and SO2 as well as the BTEX. We haven't had really any spikes except for H2S relatively recently. And they're not very high. They're lower than the threshold that we would have for alarm. But overall, it's mainly just hydrogen sulfide.
Yeah, but what creates that type of gas?
It could be a number of different sources.
Like what?
So I can help out with this, Sean.
Oh.
So oftentimes, especially in the location that we're near, H2S and SO2, I think in a couple of our slides have can come from maybe oil and gas refining operations or perhaps even from dairy operations. And I believe both of those are kind of course, nearby in the community. As Sean described, we haven't seen anything that's been above that, what we call that threshold or that the relative exposure level or limit. But all of that is in real time. So you are all able to track in real time all of those readings that we have. And I'll go ahead and make sure we drop that back in the chat too.
Yeah, until I got another question. When could you locate a mobile right there at Magala and Panama?
I believe, Sean, that was a question that came up before. I think you logged on to the meeting.
Oh, okay.
So Mario, like I said, I'll work with the team that Sean's on to talk with them and with the water board about that request.
No, but I'm asking them because I'm asking him for the reason why, because he's in charge with the air monitoring, the mobile.
Sean is as a specialist, and he certainly helps oversee all of the air monitoring, but it is certainly at the district level. Sean, he is part of my team, so that's why I'm going to go work with, like I said, the air board and the water board, and talk a little bit more about that request and that complaint and the next steps we can all take together.
But it'll be done, right? You guys gonna send a mobile over there?
Like I said, I'm going to talk with the team. I'm not familiar because I wasn't part of that water board discussion. I believe you had. So we'll work with the water board. Like I said, we'll follow up with you right before we even follow up with the whole CSC about that request.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you all. I know I want to take that one last comment that we do have. I want to be mindful of just the questions that are coming in. They're important, but we still have some good time. So we'll get to our wrap up soon. Sandra, I'd love to invite you in to share what you're thinking.
Yes, I have a quick question, and I'm sorry if I might have missed this. Are there any monitors in the community of Hilltop?
I'll drop in maybe I'll share on my screen if I'm able to, a map of everything that Sean just described. And right now I'm sharing, we have this in Spanish as well. I'm sharing the English. I'll go ahead and drop the link into the Spanish as well. And Sean, I'm going to hover over, and I believe, can you tell me, this is one, correct, that we have deployed?
Actually, it's the one. It's the one below it, I believe. I'm sorry. Yep. It is that one.
So this is the Mountain View deployment. We also have one deployed, it looks like, at El Camino Real, which is that down here?
El Camino Real, yeah, it'd be down in Arvin in the I and the H area.
I think maybe I'll go to that. I thought this might be better, but maybe I'll just go to, I think we have, oh, maybe we don't have the map yet. Okay, I'll go here and then I'll drop the other one in. So the question right now is kind of what the status is of deploying kind of in the hill. So there's the Weed Top, Fuller Acres, Hilltop area up here. So from my understanding, this is right now the only monitor we have deployed in that area, if that helps answer your question, Sandra.
Okay, yeah, and that's just reading like the community of Fuller Acres and Hilltop, right? So like if they were to go online right now, they can see what the PM 2.5 is?
Correct. They should be able to see, I'm going to put it up right now. They should be able to see real-time PM 2.5. This was just taken just a little bit ago. They can also see real-time in a variety of other toxics. And then earlier when Sean talked about H2S and SO2, you can see here in real time the actual monitored concentrations as well. And that, to your point, we are working, by the way, on a real-time map that will be a little bit easier for you to view and click on. It just takes a little bit for us to develop it. So instead of you just kind of guessing which one is where, you'll be able to look on a map, click exactly where you are. But yes, this is the one that's reading Hilltop Fuller Acres. I'll drop the link right now.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. We have some comments that Michelle dropped in the chat with some opportunities to participate in future opportunities, meetings coming up. So make sure to take a look at those. Turning it back over to Jessica, if you can orient me to any other agencies that would need to provide updates at this time, or if you wanted to go to Pesticides Committee, if there's anything else you wanted to highlight from your perspective in addition to what was shared earlier.
I'll just say, I think we have enough time, Michelle, if you wanted to unmute and verbalize some of your updates.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Oh, it still sounds bad.
Sorry.
Oh, I mean, I just kind of want to say, if you unplug your headset, do you think that could could help.
I wasn't using my headset earlier. Let me see if this.
Never mind, that was worse.
Worse. I'm sorry, Michelle.
Yeah, sorry,
Oh,
Michelle.
no. Well, I just want to, maybe I'll just elevate and thank Michelle for all of her work with the co-leads in the district prepping for that meeting with CARB. I know Michelle's just done such a great job. She is the main author of that staff report that she linked to, and I think does a good job capturing all of the hard work that you all put into the SERP. And so I'll definitely recognize Michelle for that. And I know she wishes she could say that out loud right now too. And then Daniela, I thought Gus did such a great job summarizing the pesticide subcommittee efforts, the next steps. I'll just go ahead and reiterate my huge thanks to all of the agencies that were there, DPR, CARB, the Ag Commissioner, OWIHA, and several folks from the district, as well as the co-leads and even just some great community partners, Gustavo in particular, who just helped, I think, elevate a lot of community concerns at that meeting. So I'll just wrap up that pesticides update by just reiterating my thanks to all of you.
Wonderful. And there are no other agency updates from the district. We're good to move on. Okay, wonderful. Well, we're still on perfect timing. Not that we're we follow the flow of what everyone's feeling here, but it sounds like it's a good moment to just begin our wind down, our wrap up, and elevate some of the things that you kind of expect for future meetings, and also let you know when that's happening. So as you saw today, we began to prioritize and hear some of the questions that you're having, some of the emphasis that you want to make for the topics that are upcoming as you continue to implement this SERP. So we can expect to bring additional SERP measure categories at the next meeting, and we'll continue to kind of have this consensus-based discussion to hear those priorities. So again, we took your feedback, continue to share feedback on our process for that facilitation, and we'll put together something for next meeting. So I'll share my screen briefly and so that you can see when the next meeting's happening. So we're almost in October. So October 26th at 5 to 7 via Zoom. And again, it's a Wednesday as usual. We'll look forward to seeing you there, and really want to take a moment to see if there are any, I kind of summarized the fact that we will be bringing back the prioritization. I imagine we're going to bring back the standing items and all the other usual items that we have, but turning it over to you, Jessica, to see if there's any additions you'd like to make.
I'll just reflect that I think we elevated not just remaining items, but just certainly the outreach piece. So I just wanted to reflect that we heard that today. I will also let you know that we are going to finalize a good date, but starting next month, we will be doing a debrief/agenda setting that is an optional meeting for you all to start attending, so that after next month's meeting, you all can help us develop an agenda in a space dedicated to talking about the next meeting, dedicated to reflecting on how our meeting went. It will be optional, and we're going to work on finding the official date, but I'm just letting you all know that pretty soon we'll be in a good sort of rotation where we'll also have that space, which I think will allow us a little bit more breathing room in these meetings to talk about the content.
Wonderful. Thank you for that important reminder and announcement. We just have a couple more items to share. I want to take a moment to remind the CSC members, for those of you that have not returned the W-9 form, please be sure to do that at your earliest convenience. If you are not sure about whether you have, please give us a call, send us an email, and we're happy to work with you and let you know what your status is, whether you've completed it or not. And if you've lost it, let us know. We'll send you another one. That's no problem. There's no shame in that. We are human. That happens. Gus, I want to make space for you in case you had a question about what was going on before I go on to the next update.
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna request, since you touched on this, was I know the Air District recently did like a re kind of I forget what the term is, but when you go back into the CSC, when you have to fill out the
like a
form.
renewal or confirmation.
Yes, that I was wondering if that was a success and if folks were still needing to be reached. Because today I was made aware that there's been someone that has been participating like since the beginning of the meetings, and it's a family relative of one of the families in Arvin. And you know, they're interested in if there was any space to be an official member, etc.
Yes, great question, Gus. We are kind of in the final stages. We wanted to make sure we gave everyone ample opportunity. Just a light preview, we did hear back from folks that said they no longer have time to be on the committee. I know Gus and Bianca know this, that and Sandra, a few of our community partners we've reached out to help us reach folks we haven't reached. To your point, Gus, I think over the next few months, we can save space in meetings to talk about next steps. But if the community we don't have to make decisions right now, but as a preview, we're certainly happy to let the community know maybe what space is available and see if we want to start opening it back up. I think that makes a lot of sense to us.
Wonderful.
Right on. Thank you.
Great additions. Thank you both. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Liz, who's going to wrap us up with some of those action items. And then if you are a member of the public and you want to make a public comment, that time is coming up. So get ready to raise your hand. You can start raising it now if you want to make a comment. Remember that at this time, if you just heard the meeting, so if anything in those action items don't resonate or you want to clarify, please let Liz know, and she will make that update. Take it away, Liz.
Thank you. I know my name can get a little tricky to say sometimes.
We're seeing a different screen, okay?
Oh.
We're seeing your notes.
Huh. That's weird. For me, it was showing up as...
Try one more time.
Yeah. How is that?
That works. You might have to zoom a tiny bit, but that works. We're seeing the right screen.
How about that?
Yeah, that's great.
Great. So the first action item we have, the Air District will work with the Water Board and follow up with the CSC regarding placing air monitors to determine the emissions that are coming from the Malaga water facilities. Next, the Air District will ensure that the Spanish version of the SERP has an updated cover page that reflects the date of the SERP approval. The Air District and the CSC will continue having an in-depth discussion on outreach, prioritization, and next steps for SERP implementation at the next meeting. Next, CSC members are invited to attend the October 13th CARB board meeting to provide your comments as they consider the approval of the Arvin and Lamont SERP. And there's a link to more information on that here. And next, after the October meeting, CSC members are invited to attend an optional agenda setting meeting, and the date is to be decided, where we will collectively decide on the content of upcoming meetings. And I'll just pause here to see if there are any edits that you would like to make to any of these action items, or if we have missed something that you would like us to track. Please raise your hand and let us know, or also feel free to put it in the chat. I'll give it a moment.
And I just want to thank Liz for reading those out loud so they can be interpreted. And we will, I think in the future, as we kind of transition and bring more folks on board, we will also have them interpreted visually for folks into Spanish.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Liz. And I think it's one of the first times where we don't. So hopefully, it really is just definitely moving forward. Thank you. So it is time for public comment. We have a couple minutes and would like to invite anyone from the public that would like to share openly with this committee. Please raise your hand if you're calling in. To raise your hand is *9. And if you want to, just use the Zoom raise your hand function here. I don't see any as of now, but there were a couple members of the public, so give it a second. Tim, take it away.
Mine had to do a comment regarding the follow-up. Number one, under it says Milligan Road. Isn't that where Tasty Selections and Grimway is located? So basically, from the aerial maps of their facilities, you can see sewage pans, or sewage ponds. So basically, it's where they store their sewage. So shouldn't they be the ones being investigated?
So you're referring to Mario's questions. We've been working directly with Mario, working with the facilities and working with the water board on the concerns that Mario has over the past year.
Okay,
including the facilities you mentioned.
Because that area would fall in with Arvin Edison, the water provider, Arvin Edison. So
I see. Yeah, so like I said, I think most of the concerns have been related to water. And so because the water board are experts, we've brought them in, but we've stayed in tune and connected and had meetings directly with the water board and the concerned community member regarding that particular request. But I do think I noted your comment and kind of your reference, and perhaps maybe that's another piece that we wanted to make sure that we understand.
Great. Thank you both. Any other comments from the members of the public or other members that are having thoughts? All right, I think everyone's ready for dinner. I just want to express my gratitude to every single person that is present today. Thank you so much to all the residents for your engagement. Thank you so much to the Air District, community co-leads, Linguistica, CARB, my team, everyone that helps make this happen, the UC Davis team, every single person. I appreciate you all. We appreciate you all, and we look forward to seeing you in October. Thank you and have a wonderful night, and please take care. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Bye, everyone. Buenas noches.
Bye.
Did you stop the YouTube live?
About to.
Buenas noches. Bye.
Okay.
Oh, you're muted.
I was just going to say, I'm just going to close out the meeting. So it closes out for some reason because I did something weird. I used two devices. It's not recognizing me, but I'm just going to close it out. So